fun.
If you listen to Better Health with Tripp Family Medicine, and you heed the advice, or you just decide, hey, this is going to change my life. I might take this direction. It'll be better for you in the long run. That's why we call it Better Health with Tripp Family Medicine. Dr. Jonathan Tripp in studio with us.
Good morning.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
You look like you're ready to go to the fair.
I tried to dress appropriately. I debated whether to wear my boots and my cowboy hat. I actually do have them. You'll be happy to know I'm wearing shorts today, so I am more prepared for the fair. But at least they're Wrangler shorts.
Yes.
Does that work? So, having lived in Texas, I actually do have appropriate cowboy attire, but I only use that once in a while at the office. So
we should point out we're going to have a little bit of a discussion about the fair today, and the doctor joins us on Wednesday mornings between 8:30 and 9 o'clock right here on Top Story with me, Bill Colley, on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. It's 8:33 and coming up, 63 right now, on our way to a high today of about 89. He's not going to really be a factor at the fair, though, this year because the next few days look like they're going to be much milder.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually just looked at the weather for myself, and today will still be pretty hot, high 80s. But after that, we're dropping down into the 70s, and I think even by the end of the week, high 60s. So fall is upon us, at least for this week. It could change next, but I think that's going to be very, very favorable for fair attendance as well as the animals that are present there.
Yeah, and the fair is one of those things, I think, psychologically, for a lot of people. It's healthy. It's healthy to get out there, just to see old friends, walk around, see exhibits, have some fun.
I do. I think that's a great, shall we say, mental release. Go out, play a little bit, and it's a interesting walkabout. That's, I guess, how the Aussies would say it.
Yeah.
But it is a lot of good mental release just to walk around, look at the animals, see what the exhibits are, see who made better jelly or canned tomatoes than somebody else. And how they can decorate their canning jars. I think they all look pretty good when I'm hungry.
The Aussies would feel right at home, though, because you've got cattle and sheep.
All together, yeah. No, in fact, some of the fun of this is what 4-H and FFA are involved with a lot of the showing of the animals that the kids have. And I got to admit, the parents are heavily involved. At least that's my experience with 4-H and FFA, that these are things that kids are learning a lot about animal husbandry and how to raise, how to show, a lot of fun things that go on. That there'll be various arenas for the different types of animals, and I think that's always interesting to watch because I don't know how to show an animal. But my first practice, which was in a small town in Texas, we had the Atascosa county stock show that fed into the big San Antonio stock show, and the kids would show and people would bid, and they were allowed to keep money for scholarship. And I think our program is pretty similar here. I think the fair is a fun thing. I have great family memories of going to various state and county fairs growing up, and we'd like to invite callers today to tell us your favorite family fair experience. Anything. It could be from how sick you got on our ride to how the sheep got out and ran over your new shoes or something. I think there's a lot of fun that we could talk about today.
I had that happen to a friend of mine. I kept telling him he's got to go on the this ride with me. He kept saying, "Nah, I had dinner not long ago," and I kept insisting. So he got on the ride with me. And all of a sudden, I just noticed after a couple of minutes, his head just sort of tilted sideways, and then his chin suddenly rested on his chest, and then he became very unwell.
All the blood drained from his face. Yeah, yes. kind of a green look. Yeah,
but he went home. He changed. He came right back.
Wow. No, that's a trooper. He went against his better judgment, listening to you as a tempter.
Yeah,
that was good. No, I have some other things that we're going to bring up as well. It has to do with allergens and also things that have to do more with how to keep healthy when you go to the fair. But I won't tell you can't have a little bit of fair food.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit later about the funnel cakes and the origin. 8:37, you're on the air with Dr. Jonathan Tripp on Better Health on News Radio 1310 KLIX.
Hey, good morning. How about that Texas State Fair, the world's largest?
The Texas State Fair?
Yes.
Oh, can't argue against Texas fairs. They go all out.
Yeah, it's the world's largest fair there in Dallas.
Well, that would be one to be. You could probably spend several days just walking around that one.
Yes, you can. I have done it several times. It takes 2 or 3 days to walk through that whole thing.
I would imagine you take a family vacation to do that.
Yeah,
Yes, it would.
yeah,
I see, see
and
if I,
and most of your savings.
Yeah.
Is-
Well, thank you for the call. We lost him there, but that's true. I mean, if you did it every day, but there are fairs. I mean, that are in Minnesota, Texas. Some of these places have enormous state fairs, and they're sprawling. I mean, you're talking hundreds of acres that they have set up too.
Yeah, no, you have to have a map to figure out what you want to see because you won't see it all. But in contrast, our fair here for Twin Falls County is smaller. It's not small by any means, but I like it because it's more intimate. And so the fun of going to the rodeo, you see neighbors, you make new friends. The carnival rides, I already mentioned the showing of the animals. There's always a kind of a petting area for animals. My kids would spend all day hanging out with those animals, and so I just really think it's a lot of fun. There's some community togetherness, if you will. There, like I say, kind of some intimacy, and I appreciate the size of fair that we have and the efforts that go into making it.
Yeah, and but they get a lot into that compact area. We should point out the alligator show is back this year, but he's not part of the petting zoo.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's that's only for
Probably
the
for
hard,
health reasons.
that's for the hardcore petters. Okay.
Yes. Hey, we have a break coming up. It'll be a very short one. More with Dr. Jonathan Tripp and Better Health with Tripp Family Medicine this morning, right here on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Bill Colley with you as well on Top Story, and we're looking forward to hearing some of your fair thoughts and memories. Dr. Jonathan Tripp joining us in studio. Tripp Family Medicine this morning on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com and Top Story with Bill Colley. And we're talking a little bit about some of the issues involved with the Twin Falls County Fair, which is opening today. We were just in the break and we were talking about allergies. I did not have any allergy issues in the last 7 years of my life when I was living along the Atlantic Ocean. And I haven't had a lot of them here, but since coming to Idaho, I notice I have some still. And it's flared up a few times, but you were mentioning if you're going to the fair and you're concerned about especially a lot of dust allergies and other things we may have, and animal dander too because of all of the animals, there are some things you need to do.
Yeah, as you think about having a good time at the fair and not suffering for it afterwards, I would think if you know you have some dust allergies in particular or animal dander, go ahead and take an antihistamine that won't make you tired, like a Claritin or an Allegra. Those are favorites for me because I don't like being tired. I don't want to be slowed down, but at the same time, I don't want to sleep with a nose that's plugged later that night. So I think that's a great idea to consider kind of the allergy. Uh, that will help some with our smoke in the air from all the fires around Idaho and other places that blow into Twin Falls. This is a big issue in my practice over the last couple of weeks. I'll have people come in and I ask them if they have a history of allergies, and their response is no. But on physical exam, they look like they have been chronic allergy sufferers, and it really comes down to probably the smoke in the air is the biggest single factor. And people that have an asthma history, um, they're fighting harder during this time period because of the particulates of the smoke that's in the air. So I'm not saying they should stay inside, but take some preventative measures. Make sure if you're asthmatic, you got your inhaler with you, that you've taken some antihistamine to reduce how much influence the allergens that you'll be exposed to will cause your nose and your throat to react. So those are some quick suggestions, and some other things are, general hygiene. When we're out and about, we often forget about washing your hands before you eat. Well, if you're standing in line and putting your hands on the metal railings that keep the line straight for the carnival rides, or you're hanging around petting the animals, and then you go and get a corn dog or a funnel cake, and you're eating that with your hands, take a minute to wash your hands. I mean, our fair isn't that big. There are bathrooms, and you could carry hand sanitizer with you, and that'll stop you from getting a lot of things related to colds, and especially stomach bugs that viruses that cause you nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. That's easy stuff to do if you just take a minute to say, hey, before we eat, let's just wash our hands. You'll have a much better experience the next day than if you don't do that. So those are some health suggestions.
And we have a lot of, you had pointed out on the show a couple of weeks ago about back to school. You got a lot of kids going back to school, and that means that they're going to be in a confined space. They pick up more colds and other issues. And then if they're going to the fair this weekend, you just mentioned the railings, the door handles, everything else that they have out there, um, because they're now in a situation where they could be incubating that. And I've heard that that virus will last for 3 hours on a metal railing like that.
It does depend on the virus. That's one of the things that is a confounding factor to healthcare, and that is sometimes things hang around a long time, and other times they put it in a petri dish and it seems to die so fast they can't figure out. So I can't tell you which virus hangs around longer, but bacteria is that way. We talk about E. coli a lot, but the truth is E. coli is a natural part of our system. It's just supposed to only be in the GI tract. So if it gets anywhere else, it's trouble. Um, so there's both bacteria, viruses. There's even fungi or a fungus. We think of things like ringworm or yeast infection. Those are fungus, but the truth is they can cause you trouble in the mouth, especially little kids that have bottles. Thrush is common among little kids. Why? Because they're always putting stuff in their mouth. That's their job when they're under two.
Mm-hmm.
They're supposed to find everything to put in their mouth.
I just talked to somebody who mentioned that they apparently picked up a ringworm while they were at a workout club, perhaps on the bicycle or something else at the club, and then they discovered they had a rash on a thigh, and it turned out to be a ringworm, which can be, I guess, obviously, if you come into contact it and it's left there on the seat of that bicycle, all the more reason to maybe wash or wipe that down before you start in those situations.
Yeah, and the truth is ringworm or fungus, it's called tinea that causes ringworm, is everywhere all the time. It's on your body even after you've showered and cleaned off. But the key is probably, especially that story, I'm thinking the irritation caused by riding on the bike opened up the skin just enough for it to take hold. A little bit of irritation. So a lot of times I'll have parents come in with a kiddo that says, where did they get this? And the answer is, unless you've seen it on somebody else, they probably had it around and now got some irritation that got it started, whether it's a scratch or a bug bite or whatever. So I don't spend a lot of time saying, get rid of the cat, get rid of the dog, don't touch that animal, because that is one of the ways we can get ringworm. But most of the time, it's an easy treatment, easy to take care of, and I don't want to start add to the germaphobes, even though I'm kind of one of them.
Yes.
Because I don't want you getting more OCD because of what I said on the radio. But it's around, and the good news, the best thing I learned about getting infections is that our immune systems are so good that you have to have a pretty high dose of that virus, that bacteria, that fungus for it to actually take hold, because your immune system fights it off. So in reality, most of what's being done to protect you is happening automatically. When we talk about washing hands and avoiding certain circumstances, that just helps. But, most of the time your immune system is great.
Dr. Jonathan Tripp is in studio with us today, Better Health with Tripp Family Medicine. If you'd like to reach the program, he's asking people for some memories, perhaps, of going to the fair, any fair, really. And you can reach us at 736-0300. It's 849-65. Bill Colley with you, too, as well. News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Eating at the fair. Now, a lot of people, that's the reason they really like to go. I was telling a friend last night, actually the best pizza sometimes I've ever had, I get at fairs. It's not, people think funnel cakes and other foods, but it's there's such a variety. It's tough to walk away from.
Yeah, no, it's a temptation, especially if you start by being hungry there. It's kind of like going to the grocery store. Everything looks good, so it's hard to decide what to do. And, the fair is notorious for everything double deep fried and, double fat and double sugar. And, it's all wonderful. It's what our taste buds were made to look for. But, our ancestors didn't grow up with a carnival hanging around. So, I'd say enjoy, realize this is a special occasion, do it in moderation. Don't go crazy. We, in the medical field, talk about holiday heart from Thanksgiving and Christmas often people that have kind of borderline heart conditions or other problems will overdo with food and alcohol and then show up in the ER because of actually what they ate. So moderation is still the key, but yeah, have fun. It's the fair.
We have a caller with us. You're on the air with Dr. Jonathan Tripp. What's on your mind?
Good morning. First, I love the fair. It doesn't matter where it is. We just enjoy going to it, except for the animal section because of the hay and the allergy part. But other than that, it's all great. I do have a question about shingles.
Sure.
I was diagnosed with shingles a few years ago in my eye. It just,
One of the worst places to get it.
Yeah, and they gave me medicine, which was great, but I wonder what my risk of getting it again are.
Oh, good question. The truth is you can get shingles again. It is relatively rare, but recommendations are, and I didn't ask your age, and nor would I dare do that,
Over 50.
There you go. Thanks for volunteering.
I didn't say how far, but
that's right. The recommendation is that anybody over 65 get a shingles vaccine, which is basically a booster to what is probably already in your system, and that is it's kind of like a small attack on your system as if you were getting shingles, but shingles comes from the chickenpox virus. And so whether you've had the actual virus or had immunizations, as our younger kids have had, the virus is there and present and waiting to come out when you're emotionally or physically stressed, and that's when shingles shows up. You can get it again. It's less likely if you've had it recently, but Centers for Disease Control, or CDC, their recommendation is even if you've recently had it, if you're at that 65 or older, to get a repeat, to get the vaccine. And I've had this week 2 people that are right at about 50 that said, well, can I get it? And the answer is your insurance probably won't pay for it because you're not old enough. But if you want to get it, and that's a worry, I think it's reasonable, and they have both paid out of pocket, and one of them had recent exposure to somebody else, and I thought, that's a perfect time to do it. So go ahead. What else was part of your question there?
It was just, can I get it again? Because what I had in my eye, they just treated it with medicine, and then it went away in a week. And
oh, wow. Was it very painful to you?
No, that's what was weird.
Yeah,
I didn't really think it was shingles. It itched a lot. It drained a lot.
Okay.
I just cried constantly out of the one eye.
Did it spread to part of your face as well?
I had a couple blister pimple things, but nothing else.
Wow, sounds like you had the mild version, and that's good news because especially in the eye, the worry is scarring of the cornea, and then it changes your vision forever. So that sounds like you had the better version. My experience with shingles is no matter where it is on the body, it's terribly painful. I had it as a 9-year-old, and I still say it's the worst pain of my life. But I've had several patients over the years that have the rash is consistent, the blisters look right, the pattern following a nerve pattern is correct, and yet, kind of like you say, they talk about it being a little bit itchy and maybe slightly uncomfortable, but nothing like what most people when they get shingles have. So, the truth is that vaccine will not promote shingles for you, but it will keep your, shall we say, your immune system revved up in case you are exposed to that. So, if the situation with your eye was several years ago, it still might be a great thing for you to do, especially if you know anybody that has it. I'd get that, even though your insurance may not pay for it.
Okay.
Thanks for that.
I want to thank you for the telephone call. That's good advice. Again, a telephone number if you'd like to reach Dr. Jonathan Tripp, 736-0300. We're talking about the Twin Falls County Fair today. And of course,
I have a fair story.
You do?
Oh, this is a funny one, but I wish my mother-in-law were listening because it's all about her.
A mother-in-law story.
Yeah, no, you got to understand, my mother-in-law at about 75 is still a clogging instructor, so she's all about country and fairs and things like that. Bluegrass, all that fits right in with what she does. But we went to the fair when our kids were little. So my kids are upper teenagers mostly at this point. But, when they're, 4, 5, 6 years old, we were at the Michigan State Fair. And it's a big fair. And we went in among the animals. And she loves to tease roosters. And so this is a big pavilion with lots of chickens. And she would go in and harass an individual rooster by crowing and get one going. And then when that one gets going, then the others around it, and then it spread. And I mean, this is, football stadium-sized building that
Yeah.
about half of it was filled with chickens and roosters. And boy, she just had the time of her life getting them all going. So that's one of our favorite experiences. And of course, because she did that, whenever we're around, somebody's barn or chickens or whatever, especially if our kids are present, we have to see if we can get the rooster going. So that's now a family tradition.
She's passed that down.
Yes, she has.
Yes.
Yes, she has.
We talked a little bit about the food. You can, I think, eat too much, obviously, and then you get that common tummy ache that will happen.
Yeah.
And I can remember being little, and you'd have the cotton candy, and then you might have some, and the cotton candy itself, I mean, was enough to do it. And plus, you'd get that sugar high, which was almost like a headache sometimes after eating some of that.
Headache with a buzz. Yeah, that's true. So what do we do about that tummy ache?
What, little Malox?
Yeah, that might be a good idea. I mean, there's if you can get a hold of a little baking soda, you put about a quarter teaspoon. If you're thinking a little kiddo, like a 5 or 6 year old, I'd probably stick with about a quarter teaspoon and about a couple ounces of water. And they won't like it because it's really salty, but a couple of minutes later, they'll have a big burp and probably feel a lot better. But you're right. The best answer is really just don't do it. Do some of it, not all of it.
If you keep occupied with the exhibits, and maybe if you're young with the rides, then food just is periodic. You're not going from stand to stand to stand.
Yeah,
trying to compare and see what's best.
After about the third stand, it catches up. Yeah,
I was going to say, for a lot of people, the only real concerns about this are you go out there. You're worried about, there's the obvious things, the sun, exposure to the sun, maybe too much if you're going to be out there all day.
Yeah.
Bring some block along.
Yeah, even if the temperature is cooler, we're still subject to lots of easy burning because of our altitude. It'd be worse if we're at 7,000 feet, but it sure is. That's always a concern. And, I do a lot of dermatology, so if somebody comes in and says, I got sunburned, I won't crucify them, but I will remind them that they are my job security for the future. They're helping me out. So, yeah, the sunblock's a good idea. I've had a lot of discussion with Dr. Rashid, who was with us last week, about vitamin D. And, you need about 15 or 20 minutes unblocked to really get some good vitamin D. So if you did that the first few minutes and then sunblocked, you'd probably have a great experience.
Sure.
I want to get in a little pitch about, I've got new practitioners coming to my office starting September 8th. I have a beautiful young lady, new nurse practitioner coming into our office, Crystal King. She'll be there 2 half days a week to begin with because she's a mother of young kids and is mainly going to stay home, but she's going to be with our office. And then I have a physician assistant that has a couple of years experience down in Texas. Speaking of the Texas Fair, we're going to bring him north. He's from Pocatello originally, but real good experience in ER and clinic. And his name is Jeremy Daly, and he'll be here about mid to late October. So if you've struggled to get into our office as quick as you want as a new patient, we're bringing in more help.
And we'll wrap it up. We'll see the doctor again next week.